JD, groups have several overlapping degrees of process. Since you were enrolled, which stage was your small group in Rule 2?
My small group from Rule? So does this have to be a question, or do I
More of a question.
What was dysfunctional?
I'm sorry, I can't give you that one. That is not one of the stages.
I will take group growth for 500, Jody.
And the statement is, all Rule classes seem to have a friendly, though competitive culture. What Rule class has the best group dynamics?
All of them.
Oh, sorry, JD. I can't give you that one either.
What was all of them? What was all of them?
We all know that it is unquestionably Rule 18. You have had a meager 31 years of experience in Rule group growth, and I expect that you have a lot of learning to do. And I have certainly learned a lot, as most of all of you, and I want to be just like JD when I grow up. JD will lead us through some fundamentals of group growth, which will spring to life with our participation. In fact, if we engage enough in the first half, we get to play in the second half. Please help me in welcoming back returning leadership grower, Joyful JD.
Good afternoon. Rule 18/33. When you saw the title of this presentation, what did you think it would be? Please say. What was the giggle for?
Oh, I said, when I read it, I said, oh crap.
So it was an no feces moment. Anybody else?
I expected it to be kind of like shocking or unveiling of something.
Shocking, unveiling. That probably will have it in the playing part, that if people are engaging in the first half, we get to play in the second half. That'll be the shocking and engaging part. Anyone else? When you came, how many of you had that moment that Mary said, the oh feces moment, when you realized you were assigned to a small group? I did. There are those of us who really like group work, and some of us who are uncomfortable with what is a sense of interdependency. So when you were initially reluctant to be assigned to a rule group, know that that was normal. I was that way myself. And I'm sure the first group meeting was a journey of discovery, and perhaps every group meeting is. Why would facilitators sign up to go through Rule again? Why would they do that in group? Isn't that the measure of their mettle, that they would make that commitment to go through Rule more than once? So these visuals were assembled by Tara, and I want to make sure that everyone has the same message, because I think some people got one and there are others. Tara left because her partner, Doug, lost his mom Friday night. That's why she left yesterday, just to make sure you all know that. And though it wasn't the funeral or the viewing or anything, she left to be with Doug. So I want to let you know that she picked this photograph. It's actually a different rule class, not yours. And what do you notice about the dynamics of that picture? Easy.
They're really close off.
You think? So do they look kind of wooden to you? And frightened? I really like Tracy. So the woman 4 over from the right in the front row, she has her mouth in a square. So like, she's my friend. She would be okay with this. Do you see anybody in that picture you remember? There's been a couple of rule speakers from this class.
Senator Ward?
Senator Ward is in that picture. This is Senator Ward. Who's this? Rick Bryant. So this class came to be known as Rule 14. They didn't have the most auspicious beginning, but I could tell you who did. Look at the dynamics of the group in this photo, and what do you notice?
We're so close together.
That's your first study institute. This was the second day. Is this common? Let me tell you, I think Tara took this picture. There were many pictures that Monica took and some that I took, but I think Tara took this one because she whispered to me, "You can't even see the lion." So it's like the energy of the group. The lion is an afterthought in this picture. It is this energy of this group that's assembled. Do you remember Angela's color presentation from the other night?
Yeah.
So that net connected you, but this net will also define your conflicts. There are various forms of connectedness within groups, and conflict is a normal human condition. It's our ability to manage the conflict that will help us move forward and learn from each other. Whether you meant to or not, I didn't think I saw this at the first study institute, but in the second, when you had time to yourself on Saturday night, what happened?
What happened to groups?
You went out with groups? Did you all go out? No. So you formed different groups. That's normal. You formed a group of people that are going to a ghost tour. I saw a bunch of people coming back from a ghost tour. Holly, it was you that I saw. You were with Harley and a couple of other people. And you hadn't even eaten yet. And it was 9:30 at night. So during those times that you had alone, what did you learn as a group?
Squatty potty.
Squatty potty. Did you laugh?
A lot.
Did you share in a way that's different than a way you would share here?
Yeah.
Yes. When we talk about groups and rule, people have a natural tendency to form groups. So when you went out with certain people that wanted to do the same thing you did, so last night I think you went to downtown Lancaster just as you suggested. And I think you had company. So because Madra took the time to talk about inner city Lancaster, downtown Lancaster, it raised an awareness for others to join her. I want you now to think about how many groups you're involved in. Let's just start counting on your fingers. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. In life, right now, groups you belong to. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. How many?
7.
9.
7, 4, 6, 9. Was there anything different than that?
11.
5, 11. Are they formal groups or informal groups? Both. Which make you happier?
Formal derived from
Informal derived. So formal groups usually have a purpose, a kind of a stated purpose. So that's a different degree of a group, but it means that you're undertaking a specific task in a formal group. That's a built-in error correcting mechanism. So you've decided that 6 is an ideal size, but what is the largest a group should be? 10. Think about boards of directors.
You want an odd number.
Aha! You want an odd number if it's a formal group. So the research says 12, but if you're doing a formal group for voting purposes, you probably want an odd number for a specific group. So size is one aspect of a small group. Interdependency. So if you think about the links on a chain, that's what a small group is like. Everything you do in the group will have some impact. You might say, it won't because I'm not going to say anything. Does that have an impact? It absolutely has an impact. An eye roll because someone said something that you don't agree with is a nonverbal sign of contempt. An eye roll. Not communicating communicates volumes. So interdependency is another trait. Third, group members influence one another through communication. Did that happen in your small group? Trying to look at what happened here so I can see who's influencing who. Oh, it was the yarn man. So how were you persuaded during Libertyville? Were you going to say something, Tara? So, how were you persuaded? I'm sorry, say that again.
Positions and roles, we were given an identity.
Positions and role, you were given identity.
But I remember there were people that worked quietly in the background and had little influences, which then influenced the bigger picture.
Though it's not exacting, Libertyville is intended to mimic in some capacity real life. But if you think about the group set up in Libertyville and where the spaces were, the size was very intentional, whether it was a planning commission when there were 11 chairs or whether it was an equity forum where there were 6. So you're a leader and you're in control of environments that you're in as a group. How can you make the setup of the room where your group is meeting more interdependent and less unilaterally focused if it's not a public meeting group? So the first thing I did as a trustee when I became the chair is that they always put trustees up on the stage. I said, I don't know why, that is not where I want to be. So if I'm not at eye level with someone, I can't influence or communicate. So I use this visual because look at the eye contact in this visual. So I don't even know if this was an unguarded moment or if it was an official moment of Libertyville. Tara landed on that one because she thought it was a great one. So I'm going to use something that was actually Dave's class as an example of how a group influences another. Dave, you were in the Rule 6 graduation, weren't you?
Yes.
So you had a commencement chair. That's how it was done then. His name was Dennis Paport, works for the Department of Health now. Do you remember any outstanding thing that happened at your commencement?
No.
Well, that class committee decided that they should sing the song from a Disney movie called Colors of the Wind. I'm so glad you do. Many people in the class did not feel likewise. So people were whining, "It's a blue corn moon. Why are the wolves crying? How does this song," I'm howling, "how does this song have anything to do with leadership?" How does it indeed? The night before commencement, they were rehearsing. They were awful. They were really bad. And the president of the board looked at me, and there were a lot of people come to commencement usually. And he said, you cannot let them sing. He was aghast. And I said, I cannot not let them sing. And under the bluest of skies, totally in harmony and on pitch, you think you own the land that you land on. You think the earth is just a dead thing you can claim. But I know every rock and tree and creature has a life, has a spirit, has a name. And there was an arc in the sky as they sang. Do you remember it now, Dave?
No. You gotta stop choosing examples for my class.
So the fourth function of a group is that small groups assemble for a specific purpose. So when you're meeting with a group, the brunch meetings that we have, you usually are directed, you have a purpose. So I'll review size, groups are interdependent, you influence one another for communication, and you assemble for a specific purpose. Have you ever felt like, why do this in a group when I do all the work myself anyway? So if you feel that way, it means that you need to work harder to build in efforts of others. If someone is in your group is quiet, you need to be the one to draw them out. And I'm not just talking about rule here. I'm talking about, think of your work groups and groups in the community. You're the leader. You're held to a higher standard. You're the one that should make everyone feel ownership in groups. There's a line in Proverbs that says, none of us is as smart as all of us. Groups are built-in error-correcting mechanisms. Even though we feel very, very strong in our convictions, groups can help and often make better decisions than individuals. You can remember when we walked under Doug's sign in the store that Tara used as a visual. Around the 70s is when industry came to think, industry which was very hierarchical prior to this, started to work in quality circles. And now it's still a very popular concept. Management has taken this pro-group perspective to problem solving. Certainly Extension operates in this way at Penn State. Do you believe that? I'm not getting a firm affirmation. Yes, yes. So this built-in error-correcting mechanism, that's a way to have a group have progress. Bringing tasks to light happens in groups. Ask a township official or borough council members. Ask Josh or Sarah or Harley that when in meetings things come to light that may not have been said at other times. Happens in management team meetings, that's for certain. Tara picked this picture and she had a line that she wanted to be able to say if she were here. This was our Christmas card one year, and Tara had written on the bottom of it, rule, we have each other's back, we have your back. Happy holidays. So that's what she would have said if she were here today. Leadership in groups is the ability to influence members in such a way to achieve the goals of the group. So it may not be your goal, but it should be the goals of the group. It should be a shared goal of the group. Hickory, my first golden, was very obedient, very good like your Duke. She would stay at my knee without a tether. She embodied the phrase, dog devoted, loyal. Now my pup, Whiskey, who is Hickory's successor, she is spirits distilled of her name. If I leave her unleashed, she will pull up grass. She will run wild through the neighborhood. So our leadership has to be at a different operative. But also remember that I want her to be happy and that it's the not worst thing in the world for a dog to pull up a little bit of grass. That's natural. I'm not running the dog. I am leading the dog. You are not running a group. You are leading a group. And a lot of facilitators are having scholars take turns leading the group. So there's all different kinds of leadership, but I think the most important thing to remember when you're a meeting manager or a speaker introducer is that adults don't need leashes to lead. They don't need leashes to lead. It's actually when you empower others. Someone in the last class, her name was Darcy, had a companion harp. Now, harps are, I don't know how I got to that point, double R, but we're okay. Harps are big musical instruments. I don't know that it was written anywhere in a prescription that Darcy had to bring the harp to every study institute, but she brought the harp to every single study institute, which became the soundtrack to Rule 17. A harp is a heavy thing to carry, and I would routinely say to 3 men in the class, please help Darcy with the harp. And finally, at the third study institute, one of them confessed to me, she doesn't let anybody else touch the harp. She loads it herself. She loads it herself. So we first heard the harp at Libertyville in the church. I want to make a comparison to this to the way Duke has imbued our class as being a part of the class, as Darcy owned this harp. And when we were in the Capitol for our legislative reception, and this was in the rotunda, people stopped. They were seized by a harp. They said, no one has ever played a harp in here. And though she was disconnected to the group, she felt that in doing this, she was giving to the group in this way. So we never questioned the harp, and it came everywhere. It even came to Washington, but not into the Pentagon or into the White House. There are people that have an ability or a force, or by talking the most, that are considered leaders. But sometimes those aren't the leaders that can put a group back on track. I want to think about when Madra was the mayor. So when Madra was the mayor, that person was appointed. So those kind of leaders, the designated leaders, raise your hand in the room if you're a designated leader. So only 3 people raised their hand that I saw, 4, 5. More hands are starting to come up right now. So realize that leadership is in everybody, and it's incumbent on you as a leadership scholar to bring out the leadership of everybody else. Now that you have these perspectives of Myers-Briggs, DISC, and color to inform you and your strengths and how to work with others, it is going to be your job to make leadership function better. A small group may or may not need a specific leader, but it's always going to need leadership. So to commit yourself to the goals of the group. Members have one critical assignment, and what is it? Mike talked about it today. What's the first job of a leader? There's no wrong answer. Acquire followers. Did you say be remarkable?
Be willing to be vulnerable.
Be willing to be vulnerable. That certainly was an aspect today during Mike's presentation.
Make connections.
Make connections. Number 1 job, is there others? Please, Mary.
Smile. Smile at people.
Smile at people. He did say to smile at people. The smile should be genuine. It should come from your heart. But your number 1 job, you going to tell me?
Listen.
Listen. That's it, said Samantha. Your number 1 job as a leader is to listen. That doesn't seem right. I thought it was to tell people what to do. It's not. The number 1 job of a leader is to listen. And you have to listen with your whole body. You cannot just listen with your ears. You have to listen with your body. How do you listen with your body? Does somebody not want to play today?
Non-verbal.
Non-verbally. Lean in, talk, ask questions, smile, make a comment, extended eye contact. When Mike was in the last part of his presentation, when he self-disclosed about his son and the day of his son's death, in the back of the room, and I've known Mike for 31 years, my hands just instinctively went up to here, and it was my way of holding it as he went through that part of the presentation. So he said, I saw what you did, and I felt what you meant for me to feel. So you may not know the right thing to do at the time. Just follow your impulse on that thing. The stuff that we do in RULE is designed. Some of it is accidental, but most of it is designed. Why would we do a stretch break?
You can't sit still that long.
Well, and actually, it's a way to help you be refreshed and to have your attention be focused on whomever or whatever is going to happen next. And it's also to be holistic. It's to make sure that we're treating you, that we feed you, that you're comfortable where you are, that you feel taken care of. That's on purpose. A lot of the aspects of RULE are definitely on purpose. I'm going to go through a whole list right now of what's on purpose. Small group public issues on leadership, agenda breaks, workshop feedback, roommate feedback, who am I speeches, goal setting, committees, small group facilitators, agenda variety, assignments. Impromptus, informal time, study institutes in obscure places, study institutes in urban places, networking, group roles, rooming assignments, meals. Why don't we let you get your own meals?
Because we would fracture out like we do in the evening when we combine, but this gives us an opportunity to be together as a group.
So is it a good idea or a bad idea to let you have your own meals some of the time?
Oh, good idea.
Good. Good idea. So it's the way you'll grow together. Angela shared a sampling in her presentation of certain parts of group stages. And I have to tell you, I came across this visual, and it's why I said to Mike, they're in a certain stage. I want to make sure you can see that out because I've been stepping in front of you. So I feel that this group went through this. So what happened is when people came and they saw their books and they were all lined up, and it looked like if you took one book out, all the other books would fall down when you first came in. And when you all were giving us that, oh, my feces look, you were right here. But then quickly, sometime around the name game when we were all in a circle, but we were in a circle, at least this was when I sensed it, you came to here. You came to an early honeymoon stage, which usually doesn't happen. This usually is a cycle of 5 study institutes, or perhaps the whole program. So in my opinion, I felt that you were here really early. So when we have a conflict, we'll go into a dip, and there will be conflicts. It's a normal part of group process. And it will come up, and then by the time we leave for the first year, or by the time we're leaving for the last time, there will be likely, maybe not for everyone, a crisis of separation. Does anybody have any questions or comments about this or reflections they'd like to offer? Thank you.
I look at this as this linear path, but I feel intentional with my coming here, and I feel so many people are intentional with their coming here that this looks neat, and I feel like my process is messy. I feel like the things that have happened institute to institute, I was one place on this line, and now I feel like I'm a different place on this line. I think that's, and I might go back to where I was before, and I feel like that's the power of being with a bunch of people that I don't know very well, that I'm getting to know incredibly well, and I'm sharing things that I've never really spoken about with very close dear friends. as a growth process, I just feel like this looks neat, and I think it feels messy individually.
So do processes have to be linear to be processes? No. Exactly. So each of you may chart your process differently. I want to make sure that if we have things that we want to talk about as a group, that we use this environment to talk about it. So some people said yesterday, came to me and said, we would like additional time tomorrow. And I said, this is the right time to talk about it in group process, because this is part of the group process. So who would like to share first, or who has anything to say? Thank you.
I was one of the people. I won't call the other person out unless they want to step up. But because I had a very powerful reaction. Tiffany's in my small group, and so I already felt connected to her. And then I felt heartsick that I wasn't aware of her feelings after the last institute. I don't want anybody in this room to leave an institute feeling like they have unfinished business that they need to address in their hearts. That their ride home, like he referenced, that they're gonna have regrets or feel maybe that they don't wanna come back. You know, to me, that would be the worst outcome. So I felt it was important, but I think last night there was a lot of informal conversation that was very healing. But we are a group, all of us together, so we need to be able to give voice to things in this room and not just as sidebars and small group conversations. So.
Do you feel you can do that? I'm waiting for somebody else to make one. Do you feel you can do that? Do you have trust in the group to do that? Do you have trust in owning the process?
Everybody has to feel safe.
I want you to understand, though it may have seemed otherwise. Thank you.
Based on Mike's presentation this morning, I had no conversation with Mike Brubaker before he came today, other than he was coming today and what time he was coming. I never talked to him about what he'll speak about because it's never the same thing. And Stephanie knows us, she knows him. So whatever position he came from that we felt may or may not have resonated with conversations we were having was accidental or planned by someone other than us. Because there wasn't a conversation here, in case people are thinking that. That didn't happen. But it was welcome to hear him say it.
Yesterday, when I was listening to Tiffany and others talk about their experiences at the last institute, I felt a little sorry that I wasn't able to make it and be a part or bear witness to what you experienced. But I shared something with Madra after the conversation where it just seemed to me like, and this, you know, it may be off mark, but to me, it felt like, you know, Toby was the target as far as people voicing their concern for the comment that he made. But I said to Madra that I didn't feel like we were addressing or attacking the root cause of why Toby made that comment. And I feel like it's just a common thing that occurs just in society based on my experiences. We don't attack the root cause, which is more systemic in nature than individually. And Mary's like, oh man, you should say that, you should have voiced that to the group. And that's something that I appreciate about this experience. And I hate to keep giving credit to JD and Madra individually, but these are people that I kind of just go to as far as giving me that assurance that physically from a physical being that I need to address all of you. And when I look at this cycle here, after sharing with you all what I shared this morning, I feel like I'm at the bottom of the slope where crisis of acceptance and on my way back up. So I feel like I kind of just hyper drove through the whole slope down to that point in just a short amount of time. And I'm extremely critical of myself. So I feel like I was my own problem because don't get me wrong, I love being home, coaching, doing those things with my family, but I also am seeing the difference in this leadership program compared to the many other leadership programs that I've been in. And it just seems like it's more authentic. So it just put me in a different place in the past few hours than I was prior.
So what I'm hearing from some of you is that we should draw a separate line for each one of you because it would be all completely different for these lines of group growth. And that, let's see, what's an example? The Lance's graphs that he did for the disc profile. Do you remember the graph that he did, the last thing he did? So that sort of did that or went like that. So that may be more in line with what you said. That's a great image. So already you've discovered that you're unconventional. You don't fit the graphs of the experts that say you'll be here and here and here. And there will be a time when we're at the end, and we're at the last study institute, and I'll put this chart up again, and I'll say, where are you now, and how many times did you go through this, and what could we have done different, and how can we improve? So the only way that we can improve is to make sure you all feel like you have a voice together, that you're in a safe space, and that you can share, because I already see the growth of leaders. Doug, can I help you? I was missing your eye contact. Are you next? Are you next? Did you have something you wanted to say? Do you feel you'd have any benefit from playing right now?
Playing what?
Do you want to know?
Always.
Okay, let's try. I want you to stand up. Let's open those doors. Let's open those doors. So we're going to move away from confining space, and it's hard to get to a big, wide open space, so we're going to come way out here.
Tiffany doesn't have a partner, Angela is happy to be your partner. Take a moment to observe your partner fully. What I want you to do right now is to turn around. Put your back to your partner. Sarah, that area. When you said, Sarah said, we have your back. Say to your partner, I have your back. While you're turned away from your partner, I want you to change 3 things about you. Change 3 things. I don't want to hear any zippers on zipping.
Change 3 things.
Everybody done?
Yep.
Not quite done yet? Stacks. Done now? Okay, turn back around and feedback into the partner what changed.
Back again, back to back. I want you to remember you're supposed to pack your flexibility rule, because right now you're going to change 5 more things. 5 more things. We'll give you time. I'm not rushing you. Change 5 more things. No rules, Michael. Okay, you're back to back, right? You're back to back. Are you all ready to turn around? Okay. No, you're not ready. Oh, sorry. Yeah, get all parts of your body inside. You ready now? Oh, no, there's a no yet. Okay.
Quite frankly, I have no idea how many things I've changed. I just started changing stuff.
Ready now? Ready. Okay, turn around and do the observation. Want to get for a moment, the pleasure and gift of your eye contact for a moment. So, what did you learn in this little exercise?
People change, they have to be, they need to open their eyes, so
Gotta pay attention to every detail.
Go ahead.
It's easy to miss obvious changes.
It's easy to miss obvious changes. And Matthew said you have to be open to every detail. And there was another one. I want to make sure everybody heard what everybody said. What was the first one? It was yours.
If people can constantly change, you have to open up your lenses to see what's
People can constantly change. What if I said to you, I want you to go back to back again, and I'd like you to change 6 things? What would you say? Okay, know that for gender role perspectives, there's less to make in terms of physical changes. So think about this in our lives changes. Sometimes in our work lives or in our personal lives, we're asked to make too many changes at the same time. And what happens to you when you're under that pressure of being expected to make so many changes at once, being told you must change 3 more things? And what happens? So think about people as being very elastic. And although you can be flexible and you could turn around twice and you can change 6 things, even if you're a guy and you just have on a t-shirt. I mean, you can change 6 things without unzipping. But if somebody told you to do that again, hello, Bill, are you in the bride's room? But if you're told to change too many things, you have to protect yourself. So if you're worried that you're going to expose a part of your body because you're in the middle of sharing, you have to protect yourself first. So that's what happens in the process of change. So right now, I would like, if you don't have a blindfold yet, oh, did I say blindfold? To does everybody have something with them? So I want you to just keep it at hand. We do not need this for the next exercise. So we've made a space for you here in the middle where Duke is taking a nap. But I would like for you to come into the center of this room together. And I would like for you to join hands, and I'll step out of the center. Maybe I get Duke to come with me. Duke, do you want to come? No, he's going to stay right here. So we won't use anything to, I want you to join hands, and I want you to purposefully get as tangled up as you can get. Purposefully. Don't hurt yourself. Purposefully get tangled up. Purposefully, safely get tangled up. As tangled as you can. As tangled as you can. I'm sorry. So how do you...
Awkward.
So you did that. You did that really quickly. Can you safely untangle? Pull away safely. Safely. Safely untangle. Great job. Might this be someone? I would like you to get in groups of 4 or 5. 4 to 5. Okay. So we'll see if we need you. Okay, and this. So you can have as many as 6, and you need to have at least 4. So if facilitators can fill in when there's a group of 4 so that there's 5, so that's ideal is 5 for safety. So only one person in this exercise will use the blindfold, but everybody should take a turn. But you don't have, this is challenge by choice. So if you feel that you feel unsafe to do this, nobody has to do it, but you need to talk about the group process with your group. So as a group, I would like for you to consider a trust fall in a safe way. To consider a trust fall. A trust fall. But like no one is falling from a table. So no tables, no elevations. But consider together as a group a trust fall. The last game we're going to play is that everybody's going to be blindfolded, except the management team, because the management team is going to protect you. You can see where this space is, so, and we're not going to throw anything in the middle of it. So I want you to stand as far back as you can, blindfold yourself, and then carefully listen to me. No one is going to throw anything in your way. It's an open arena. Be open to the fact that I'm going to touch your shoulder and I'm going to assign you an animal. Now, so when I touch your shoulder and say the name of an animal, I am not calling you that animal. I am merely assigning you that animal so that you can begin to think like that animal. But you must be quiet. You must begin to think like that animal. How does that animal walk? And how does that animal communicate? And what might that animal do to find the rest of their species? So because it's a small room and a small circle, you may hear me say a name and you think that's your animal. Unless you hear the name associated with me touching your shoulder, and I will try not to come too close into someone's face. Those of you I know who don't like this, I will be very respectful, but only when I touch your shoulder is when I've assigned you that animal. So if you can wait and just think and be peaceful and take deep breaths in and out. Recognize your species, your barnyard, your flock, your tribe. Where are the ducks? I think so. Were there other dogs? Were there other dogs? So there's a whole bunch of dogs way over there. So go find your species, other dogs. Other dogs, find your species. What did we learn? other. What was the process like? You had to listen. What were you listening for? What kind of sounds? Sounds that sounds like you. How many times do we go through life listening for someone who sounds like us? And how many times are we standing on a hill making a noise that we think nobody hears? And right on the other side of the room, there's a whole gang of people speaking the same language that we're speaking, looking for us too. It's common in this exercise that cows have the advantage because of the pitch of a cow's voice. So it just so also happened that by sheer circumstance, more of the deeper bass voice people were cows. So cows form an early solidarity because they have bass in their favor and they are able to find each other easily. What is the most difficult group to find each other? Ducks. Why is that? Oh, you... There was one duck who was not with the rest of the ducks. Well, they're together now. They're all together now. But the dogs, we had dogs that found each other really quickly, but they didn't realize there was another pack of dogs on the other side of the room. So how did you know you were all together? So how does this not happen in real life, that people who are a strong component form early solidarity and their voices drown out the voices of others, particularly voices that we are least able to hear? And in the process of finding each other, when you found one other person who was speaking the same language you spoke, how did you feel? So in life, when we find one other person, just one, who understands us, just one, how does that make us feel? Go ahead, Angela.
No, just letting you know.
Oh, thank you. Makes you feel like home. So you have the capacity, if you want to, and it's not required, to have 34 other people that have a voice that's open to hearing your voice. And I really love the way you participated in this. And I want you to know that in the presentation I had a whole thing about group growth, and I'll do what we did with the last presentation. I'll give you the handout today, and I'll send it to you, because to me what's important is what's going on within you, what's happening, and that we address it. So it doesn't matter what I prepare. What matters is your experience to us as a management team and as staff. That's what matters. It's far more important than anything we prepare, is what your experience is. Is there anyone else who has something to say about any of the games?
It was a great game.
They're great games. These are great things to break down barriers in an organization. So for instance, at Holly's organization, at Farm Bureau, a lot of the presentations are really strongly focused on a lot of fact-based sharing and initiative, and a lot of listening by a learned speaker. And because I'm not a learned speaker, and it's more fun for me to play games, we played games in the session, and I was really thinking it may not work at Farm Bureau because they're not used to those. So do you want to say your perspective of what happened that day, Paul?
I got to see this game in action, but I didn't get to play because I was just taking some photos. But I was interested in getting to participate in the game, this was a lot more people than in the seminar. And although a lot of the seminars where everyone sit down and listen to the speaker, it did go very well with everyone who attended, and they loved it for when RULE came and shared those activities.
Thanks, Holly. So know that, don't be afraid to try something that may be a little different than what anybody else is doing. And a lot of you are living that life of trying something that's a little bit different from what anybody else is doing. Because it will be distinctive and people will notice. I really appreciate your all-in attitude today. I will yield to my speaker. I will yield to my meeting manager.
All right, so I guess